So here I am in a 1862 all limestone historic house in Faribault, Minnesota that we bought last year. I got things all moved in, and now in doing the history of the house, we're trying to explore some of the early owners and where they're buried and that kind of thing. And of course that leads you into a rabbit hole that gets you involved in stuff. So one of the things that we are getting involved with is the cemetery, where a lot of the early settlers in this area are buried, and trying to get involved with uncovering the history of the cemetery and helping with the restoration and maintenance of the cemetery. So let me show what I've been doing in helping out in that process. So Oak Ridge Cemetery is the oldest cemetery in town, and it's about 10 acres of property on the north side of Faribault, and on the upper side of the cemetery they have basically 6 large sections labeled A through F, and then there's numbered sections 1 through 7. And so we have an old map that was drawn up in the early days that shows the sections, and it shows the lots. Now a lot is one of these rectangles here, and each lot has 6 plots, so enough for 6 graves. And so originally they were letting people buy individual plots or a section or a lot of 6 for a little lower price. So quite a few early families bought up many of these, and many of the family members have been buried there from as early as 1850. One of the problems is we don't really have good registration of where these all are, so it becomes difficult to determine exactly where a plot is if you want to put some remains in the cemetery at this late date. So one of the things I'm doing to help out is try to do more of a GPS and a graphical information system layout of the cemetery, and associated with that is trying to get the GPS coordinates of many of these areas. So here's the map, satellite map of the cemetery, including the property lines and the access roads. And you can see some details in here. It's like the well house, which is in the center of the property, and some of the intersections in the roads. I know the printout isn't the greatest, but there are some details, such as there's the gate here coming off of the road has a few concrete gate holders that I can use as reference points, get a reading off of that with the GPS device, as well as some of the notable gravestones, markers in the cemetery, that then I can plot that out on a map in the future as a result of the work that I'm going to do today. So we have a bunch of data in spreadsheets of all of the people that are buried at Oak Ridge, what their names were, what year they were born and died, where their location is in the cemetery, and a lot of other information that's in this spreadsheet. Now what I was able to do is take each name and location in the cemetery, as well as some of the ownership information of each of these plots and lots, and was able to integrate that in with the GIS system. So let's focus a little bit on what one of the sections, section F, looks like. So as you'd expect, every cemetery has a list of owners associated with each of their plots and lots, and so this cemetery also has those records. Now that doesn't mean people are buried in each of these, but that does show you which ones are available. And over time, the families, even if there's owners from 100 years ago, most cemeteries still will allow a current family member to be buried in one of the available plots within a lot that's associated with that family if they're a direct relative. Now, what I was able to do is I was able to take this spreadsheet and automatically fill in each of the lots and plots with the current owners, and then in the spreadsheet has obviously more detail about when they bought it, what they paid for it, those kind of things. But it's nice to have a system. We can automatically go from the spreadsheet right to a graphical representation of both the lots and the plots. Now, once you have the owner's information, you'd like to have a similar printout of who is buried in each of these plots in each of the lots. So, given the space, I only was able to populate it with the first initial, and the last name. But it does give you a representation of which plots have burials, and you can go from there. Now, we do have a stack of old cards for each of the sections. This happens to be section A. I'll just go through some of these. So this is how it was done before computers. These are like 100-year-old cards. This was set up with 6 plots, and this is the owner unknown and the burials unknown. So we are stuck with a lot of issues like this. Then the back of each cards might have some information about when it happened. This is typical where in the area somebody will be partially buried, might be in the aisle. There's information on the back. So there's a lot of little small issues that have to be dealt with when you're trying to modernize the data system for a cemetery. All this has to kind of be taken into account. Here's that original map that had the lots for section F that I used in drawing this larger QGIS section map. Now, the one thing I don't have is the exact GPS coordinates for where these are all located. The sizes are correct, but the exact GPS reference points we don't have yet. So let me show you what I've got going on with that. So in order to support the project, I wanted to get a GPS device that had the highest level of accuracy that we can get out of a consumer handheld device. And the best one that's on the market currently is this Garmin GPS Map 65S, which uses multiple GPS bands to collect as much information from as many satellites as possible overhead, coordinate those, and give you the best amount of accuracy. So you can see we are able to get an accuracy as low as 6 feet using this particular handheld device, which should be very suitable for our cemetery project. Now, if you look at the accuracy you can typically get from a cell phone GPS or from other lower cost handheld GPSs, it's more in the 12 feet or farther away, 12 to 25 feet, depending on how many satellites, but nothing as low as 6 feet. So this is the kind of device you're going to need to do a similar kind of project that I'm talking about here. So one of the things I was able to do was to take that satellite image and overlay it in Google Earth and have it imported into this GPS device. So now I can, when I go out to the cemetery, I can go right down to the low level here and set the pointer at some of the items of interest, such as at the gate, and mark a point exactly. So that's the plan. I just thought I should do a little bit of prep work here to have you understand what the plan is today. Let's go. All right, I'm here at the Oak Ridge Cemetery south entrance. I'm going to take a GPS reading off of this post and that post, and then some more in the cemetery. All right, you got it. You can see I got 6 feet of accuracy. So I'm going to mark this location as my entry number 1. Done. This is the second one, again 6 feet. Gonna mark it and enter.